Okay, everybody, we're back. We did have a great question from the audience, and that is, what if when you bought plants for a job, Cactus Jack meaning, he bought plants for a job, but what if they were on sale and he bought more plants than he needed? But he needed half of the plants that he bought for the current job. We're still talking about the job in January. But he bought 20 plants in anticipation that the 10 plants he didn't use for January, he would use in a job in February. So, great question. If you have not used those plants for a job, meaning you didn't perform a service, you didn't plant the plants and bill the customer, does that whole bill belong to January? No, and the answer was no. The bill belongs half in January and half in a future period in the period which he uses them. So, in this case, 10 of his plants are booked to inventory, 10 of his plants are booked to cost of goods sold. Now, those 10 plants that go into his inventory, they don't reflect on the profit and loss at all. He did not build them out. He did not sell the plants. He didn't plant the plants. And so now he has a live inventory somewhere. So, in February, his main goal is going to be to sell those 10 plants. And when he does sell those 10 plants, yes, then they go to cost of goods sold, and the earnings from that job are going to be reflected in the February profit and loss statement. So, what we're talking about now is the balance sheet, and we're talking about inventory. His plants went into inventory. They did not go to cost of goods sold. And when you have things in inventory, you have work in progress. You have work or inventory in anticipation of a future job. Now, work in progress in school is largely an example of manufacturing. It talks about raw materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead, but it's the same concept when you talk about work in progress for any company. It's the work that is in progress for a future sale. So, he might have work in progress direct labor because he paid someone to unload those plants and put them in his inventory. That cost of labor will be stored here until he sells those plants. He also has direct overhead involved with his inventory because in this case, he has to store those plants. He rents the place that he stores plants. So now we have a cost of inventory overhead that involves the asset that he bought, the plants, direct labor, direct materials, which may also include plants plus fertilizer, and then also the overhead involved in storing that inventory till his next job. And it's called work in process, and it's on the balance sheet, not the profit and loss statement. So, in this case, we wait until he sells the inventory to book it to the profit and loss statement, or invoice it out, or etc., pay for it. When he does pay for it, though, if he does have to pay for it before he bills it, it still goes to the balance sheet, work in process inventory, and not cost of goods sold. It is not a cost of goods sold until it's sold. So, if that is a little bit confusing for some people, we can talk about this again. I'm going to give another example. We'll go over this again. And if you're feeling a little bit nervous right now about the mechanics of the balance sheet and work in process and inventory and all of that, don't worry, it's not that complicated, and we will get to a point where you're very comfortable with this topic before the class is over. So, let's get back to the profit and loss statement. There are other things to consider below the line, which we talked about before. Below the line is still very important because it is the cost of keeping your business running. It's not necessarily the cost of a job. And when I was looking at Cactus Jack's construction profit and loss statement, I saw something that stood out to me in a large way. It stood out to me because a lot of business owners make this mistake. They think that because you have W-2 wages, they all have to go into below the line W-2 payroll rate wages. This is a common mistake because if part of your W-2 wages are used to sell a job or to perform a job, then those W-2 wages actually belong above the line. Because if you have costs for a job buried inside your overhead, remember this is general and administrative costs below here, if you do have job costs buried into a line item that is largely overhead, you will be missing some information that you need to know as far as your cost of goods sold. If part of your cost of goods sold are down here, are you really making 25% gross margin? No, you're not. You're making less. And so if you thought your gross margin was good and you thought everything was great, you missed an opportunity to learn something because your payroll wages that pertain to people who perform services and jobs that result in a sale for your company, those wages, even if they're W-2, they belong up here. That's an operational expense, and it belongs to your operational understanding. So in this case, I made a correction because I know this company so well. I made a correction and I moved the job W-2 expenses up to where it belongs. And so now my payroll wages below the line are only administrative W-2 wages. It belongs to salaries of managers or salaries of office personnel. It could be your controller salary or your CEO salary, your VP salary, people that aren't hands-on performing a job to sell. So once I took out all of the job labor from this line and moved it up here and recalculated my percentage, now I understand my gross margin is only 19%. Is that still a good percentage? Well, it depends. It's still a good percentage if your bottom line is green, but if your percentage is 19%, and your bottom line is negative, I would focus on how to get this number up. Because once you get this number up, that will help you take care of all of these other expenses below the line that are more static or more fixed or more constant and not variable directly with sales and sales jobs and the performance of jobs. But in this case, if that was the only correction I made for this company on the profit and loss statement, if that's the only thing I corrected, then the bottom line, of course, wouldn't have changed. It would have just shifted my understanding of how much I'm making on the top line. So once you get the understanding of your top line, and it's a good understanding, meaning you've swept your profit and loss statement and you've made corrections like the one I just found, and now you've loaded your top line to include everything that you should rightly include in a perspective of job performance. Now I have bond expense, permit inspection fees, equipment rental, and W-2 labor. I have it all here. And so now my understanding of 19% is a more complete understanding. And with a more complete understanding, I can then now try to peel away the onion and figure figure out how to increase my margin, because when I can increase my margin and everything below the line stays relatively constant, that's where I'm going to enjoy a big boost in profit margin at the bottom, meaning my net income is going to increase as much as the top line increases, the bottom line will increase also. And in this case, I'm actually also showing you a transitional profit and loss statement between January and February is what we're looking at. And between January and February, I started at 19%, and then I changed some profit metrics in here. I decreased some costs, and when I decreased some costs, because I made some managerial decisions and operational decisions about my business and my business performance, once I knew I was at 19%, I made some decisions, I cut some costs, and my revenue went up a little bit also. So this shows you how the understanding as a whole allows you to drill down now into performance patterns that happen between month over month, and comparing now the importance of comparing period over period over period as it relates to your benchmark.